My name is Elias Hawthorne. I'm 63 years old, and I served as a police detective for 35 years in a major southern city. Today, I'm going to tell you how my life changed the night I got a call from my 16-year-old grandson Jordan, who we call JJ. Through his tears, he told me he was locked up in the holding cells at the precinct because his stepfather, Marcus, had accused him of assault. What I uncovered that night launched a war against corruption that, even with all my years of experience, I couldn't have imagined. But before I tell you how it all started, I need to ask you a favor. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment with where you're watching from. Your support is crucial, and it can save lives. The phone rang at 3:14 in the morning. At that hour, every sound seems louder, more urgent. During my years as a detective, I learned that calls in the middle of the night never bring good news. I grabbed my cell and answered half asleep. "Hello, Grandpa." Jordan's shaky voice cleared my head instantly. "I'm at Precinct 7. They arrested me. Marcus says I attacked him, but it's not true. He hit me first." "Are you all right? Did he hurt you?" I asked, scrambling in the dark for my pants. "My face hurts. I'm scared, Grandpa. The detective here is a friend of Marcus's, and he doesn't believe me. Please come. Don't move from there, and don't say another word until I get there," I ordered. As I got dressed, I tried to clear my mind. Marcus Vance, Jordan's stepfather. I always figured that man was trouble. My daughter, Marielle, died 5 years ago in a traffic accident. Barely a year later, Gabrielle, Jordan's mother, married Marcus. I never understood what she saw in him. A real estate developer with connections at City Hall, always bragging about his influence. I grabbed my old detective's shield, my wallet, and my car keys. I don't have official authority anymore, but I know the system, and a lot of the people who are still in it. The shield, even if it's retired, and still commands a certain respect. I drove through the empty city streets, anxiety churning in my gut. Jordan was always a good kid, a studious, quiet young man who never looked for trouble. If he was in a holding cell, something serious was going down. I arrived at Precinct 7, a building I knew far too well. I'd worked my first 10 years on the force right here. Walking in, I was hit by the familiar smell of stale coffee and disinfectant. Like an old acquaintance, I wasn't sure I was happy to see. At the front desk, a young officer was typing something on a computer. "Good evening. I'm Elias Hawthorne, former detective. My grandson, Jordan Jenkins, is being held, and I want to see him," I said firmly. The officer looked at me indifferently. "One moment." She typed a couple more things and picked up the internal phone. "Detective Sergeant O'Connell, there's a gentleman here who says he's the grandfather of the boy arrested for assault." I waited impatiently, drumming my fingers on the counter. The interior door opened and Vince O'Connell appeared. I recognized him instantly. A heavy-set man in his 50s, graying mustache and small, distrustful eyes. We had worked together years ago, but we never got along. I always thought he was too flexible with certain rules. Well, Elias Hawthorne." His voice was deep, almost mocking. "Long time no see, partner. I'm not here to socialize, Vince. I want to see my grandson and know exactly what he's being accused of." Of course. "Come into my office." He motioned for me to follow him. As we walked down the hall, I saw the temporary detention cells in the back. In one of them, I recognized Jordan, sitting on a bench, head bowed. I tried to go toward him, but O'Connell stopped me with an arm. "You and I talk first, Elias. Things are complicated." In his office, O'Connell sat behind the desk, and I took the chair opposite. On the table, there was a framed photo, him with a few other men on what looked like a hunting trip. I recognized Marcus Vance among them, smiling with a rifle in his hand. That confirmed my suspicions. They were friends. Your grandson assaulted his stepfather tonight, O'Connell began, his tone confident, almost mechanical. He split his lip and almost broke his nose. Marcus is at the hospital right now, getting checked out. We have a video from the house's security camera that shows the whole thing. The kid lost his temper. I want to see that video, I said flatly. Sure. He turned the monitor toward me and opened a file. On the screen, I saw what looked like a living room. Marcus entered the frame, speaking. Jordan appeared next, visibly agitated. Suddenly, the image showed my grandson pushing Marcus, who stumbled backward. The recording ended right there. That's it, O'Connell said. Where's the rest of the video? This doesn't prove anything conclusive. It's what we have, Elias. Marcus is pressing charges for assault. The kid has a history of violent behavior at the high school. That's a lie? Jordan has never had disciplinary problems? I have reports that say otherwise. I stood up, feeling the rage begin to simmer. I want to speak with my grandson right now. 5 minutes, O'Connell conceded. He walked with me to Jordan's cell. When he saw me, my grandson stood up. He had a black eye, a cut over his eyebrow, and a swollen lip. Seeing him like that caused a mix of pain and fury in me. Grandpa, his voice broke. Take it easy, JJ, I'm going to get you out of here. O'Connell opened the cell, letting me enter. I hugged my grandson and felt him trembling. What really happened? I asked in a low voice. Marcus came home drunk, like always. He started yelling that I stole money from his wallet. When I told him it wasn't true, he hit me. Tears streamed down his cheeks. I defended myself. I just pushed him away, but he hit the table. Then he called the police and said I attacked him. And where was your mom? She's out of town for work in Chicago. She comes back tomorrow. Jordan lowered his voice even more. It's not the first time Marcus has hit me, Grandpa, but he always threatens me. He says if I talk, no one will believe me. I glanced at O'Connell, who was waiting impatiently at the door. I'm going to get you out of here, I promise you, I told Jordan, squeezing his shoulder. You won't spend another night in this cell. I stepped out and faced O'Connell. My grandson's face is covered in bruises. Why isn't Marcus also arrested? Why is it not in your report that he assaulted the boy? And Mr. Vance says the boy inflicted those injuries himself while resisting arrest from the officers, O'Connell replied. That's absurd, and you know it. I demand that a doctor examine Jordan right now and document his injuries. It's too late for that, Elias. It's never too late to do the right thing, Vince. Either you call a doctor, or I call the district attorney on duty to report irregularities in your procedure. O'Connell held my gaze, weighing my threat. Finally, he sighed. Fine, I'll call the medical examiner on standby, but it's not going to change anything, Elias. The boy stays here tonight, and he sees the judge tomorrow. We'll see. While O'Connell walked away to make the call, I took out my cell and dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. After 3 rings, a female voice answered. Lieutenant Rivers, who is this? It's Elias Hawthorne, former detective at Precinct 7. I need your urgent help. Lieutenant April Rivers was one of the few people on the force I'd always trusted. Young, smart, and above all, incorruptible. I quickly explained the situation to her. I'm on duty tonight, she said. I can swing by in 20 minutes to verify the procedure. I appreciate it, April. While I waited, I observed the movement in the precinct. A couple of officers looked at me curiously. They probably knew who I was. In my time, I earned a reputation for being inflexible, for not accepting deals or favors. That earned me respect from some, and enemies from many. The main door opened, and Marcus Vance walked in. He had a bandage on his nose, and a swollen lower lip. Our eyes met, and he stopped, surprised to see me there. Then he forced a twisted smile and went straight to O'Connell's office. A few minutes later, Lieutenant Rivers arrived. In her early 30s, she had the firm look of someone who knows her job and tolerates no obstacles. She greeted me with a solid handshake. "Detective Hawthorne, it's been a while." "I'm not a detective anymore, Lieutenant." "You always will be to me, sir. You taught me half of what I know." O'Connell came out of his office, followed by Marcus. Seeing April, he visibly tensed. "Lieutenant Rivers, what brings you here at this hour?" "Routine procedural review, Detective Sergeant O'Connell. I was informed of a domestic violence arrest, and I want to verify that everything is in order." Marcus stepped forward, extending his hand. "Marcus Vance, ma'am. I'm the victim in this case." April ignored his hand. "I need to review the file and see the detainee," she said without preamble. "I already called a doctor to examine the boy," O'Connell added. "Perfect. I'll be present for the examination. Now, the file." O'Connell led her to his office. Marcus stayed with me in the hall, wearing a smug smile that turned my stomach. "It's a shame we have to meet under these circumstances, Mr. Hawthorne," he said with false courtesy. "Jordan always speaks very highly of you." "Save the hypocrisy, Vance. I know perfectly well what you've done." His smile vanished. "Be careful what you insinuate. I have the video that proves who assaulted whom." A conveniently edited video. What happened before the part O'Connell showed me? Nothing relevant. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Look, Mr. Hawthorne, I understand you want to defend your grandson, but the boy has problems. He needs discipline, a firm hand. The firm hand that left him with a black eye and a split eyebrow? I suppose he did that resisting arrest, too. Ask the officers who brought him in. Or maybe it was you. And then you called your friend O'Connell to cover up the story." Marcus's face hardened. "Be careful, old man. Your time has passed. Things work differently now. You'd be surprised how well I know how things work now, Vance, and what I'm capable of for my grandson." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the medical examiner, a young man who looked fresh out of school. O'Connell and April came out of the office. "Dr. Miles," O'Connell greeted him. "Thanks for coming so quickly. The detainee is over here." April gestured for the doctor to follow her toward the cells. Marcus tried to go behind them, but she stopped him. "Authorized personnel only, Mr. Vance." "I'm the complainant. I have the right to be present." "Not during the medical examination," she replied firmly. "Wait here." Marcus shot me a furious look, as if I were to blame for the delay in his plans. He sat down in one of the waiting room chairs, tapping his fingers nervously. April motioned for me to come along. We entered the cell, while the doctor was already examining Jordan. The medic took photographs of the injuries, measured them, and noted everything on an official form. "Can you tell me how you got these injuries?" he asked. Jordan looked at me for approval. I nodded slightly. "My stepfather hit me. First, a punch here," he pointed to his eye. "Then he shoved me against the wall. I hit my head and cut my eyebrow on a shelf." "When was this?" "Tonight, shortly after 11 o'clock. The doctor noted it down and continued the examination. When he finished, he turned to April. "The injuries are consistent with his account. The periorbital hematoma, the black eye, shows the coloring of a blow from about 4 or 5 hours ago. The cut on the eyebrow is typical of impact against an object with an edge, not a direct punch." April nodded. "Thank you, Doctor. I need your report as soon as possible. You'll have it within the hour, maximum." When the doctor left, April looked at me. "This contradicts the initial report, Detective." "Of course it contradicts it. O'Connell is covering for Marcus too." "I reviewed the video," she added in a low voice. "There's something off. The metadata indicates it was edited 2 hours ago. The original recording must be longer. Can you get it? I need a warrant to access the house's surveillance system, and for that, I need proof of evidence tampering. Jordan intervened. The neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, has cameras pointed at our entrance. She's always recording. She says people steal her potted plants. April looked at me with a flash of hope. Do you know the exact address? 247 Willow Creek Lane, in the Valley View neighborhood, Jordan replied. I'm going over there now, April said. If those recordings show something different, we can turn this whole thing around. I'm staying with him, I added, gesturing to my grandson. I'm not leaving him alone. I won't leave him unprotected, Grandpa, she promised, deliberately using the personal term. This stinks of corruption, and you know that's what makes me the maddest. When April left, I sat next to Jordan on the cell bench. He was exhausted and scared, but I saw a spark of strength in his eyes that I always admired. Does Mom know about this yet? He asked. Not yet. I wanted to resolve it before worrying her. She's going to take Marcus's side. She always does. Your mother loves you, JJ, but sometimes love makes us blind. Marcus manipulates her, he murmured. He makes her believe that I'm the problem, that I'm disrespectful. And she believes him because... He stopped himself. Because what? Because he has money. Because ever since Dad died, Mom's been afraid of being alone. It hurt to hear that, but I knew he was telling the truth. Gabrielle, my daughter-in-law, never fully recovered from the death of my daughter, Marielle. They were very close. Marcus came along at the perfect time, offering financial and emotional stability. Or so it seemed. We're going to fix this, I promise you, Jordan. And after that, you and I are going to have a very long talk about everything that's been happening in that house. Time crawled like a tortoise in the precinct. O'Connell occasionally peered throwing uneasy glances our way. Marcus remained in the waiting room, talking softly on his phone. Almost 2 hours later, the front door opened. April entered, accompanied by an older woman with a stern expression, District Attorney Melinda Moore. I recognized her. Her reputation for being incorruptible preceded her. Behind them came a short elderly woman holding a cell phone. Mrs. Clara Johnson, without a doubt. O'Connell's expression transformed into pure panic upon seeing the DA. Marcus stood up, confused by this unexpected turn. Detective Sergeant O'Connell, DA Moore said in a firm voice, Lieutenant Rivers has informed me of possible irregularities in this case. Show me the file and the video immediately. While a visibly nervous O'Connell led the DA to his office, April approached our cell. We found something, she whispered to me. Mrs. Johnson had recordings from 3 days ago that show Marcus pushing Jordan against the door. And the best part is the audio, where you can hear him threatening him. Hope filled my chest. For the first time since I had arrived, I felt like things could work out. The system is flawed, I know that better than anyone, but there are still people like April and DA Moore who fight for justice. Thank you, I told April, with a lump in my throat. She barely smiled. Don't thank me yet, Detective. The night is young, and this battle has just begun. DA Moore spent over an hour locked in O'Connell's office. Through the blinds, I saw tense gestures, documents pointed at, severe looks. Marcus stayed in the waiting room, checking his phone over and over. I watched him try to maintain his composure, but his right leg trembled nonstop, betraying his anxiety. Mrs. Johnson approached the cell with April. She was a small woman in her 90s, but with the sharp eyes of someone who's seen a lot. So you're the grandpa, she said without preamble. The boy always speaks highly of you. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Johnson. Don't thank me, she corrected. That man, she discreetly pointed toward Marcus, is a demon in disguise. I've seen it. I know how he changes when he thinks no one is looking. Jordan looked at her with evident gratitude. Mrs. Johnson winked at him. I brought you a donut, young man, but these police officers wouldn't let me give it to you. They said it might have a file inside. She let out a short chuckle. As if I know how to do things like that. The office door finally opened. D.A. Moore came out first, her face serious. O'Connell followed, visibly uncomfortable. The DA approached our cell. "Mr. Hawthorne, I'm District Attorney Melinda Moore," she introduced herself. Her voice was firm, but not hostile. "We have reviewed the file, and I have found serious irregularities in the procedure." Marcus stood up, quickly approaching. "Moore, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Marcus Vance. I trust you will bring justice to this unfortunate incident." The DA barely spared him a glance. "Mr. Vance, I suggest you immediately contact a lawyer." "A lawyer? But I'm the victim." "That remains to be seen," she replied dryly. "Lieutenant Rivers released Mr. Jenkins. His detention did not comply with established protocols." April didn't hide her satisfaction as she opened the cell. Jordan looked at me in disbelief. "Can I leave?" "Yes," the DA confirmed. "But I need both you and your grandfather to be available to provide further statements." Marcus stepped forward, visibly agitated. "This is unacceptable. You're going to release my aggressor? What kind of justice is this?" "Mr. Vance." The DA's voice sharpened. "The recordings we reviewed show a very different version of events. Tampering with evidence is a federal offense. If you want to avoid even more serious charges, I recommend you moderate your tone and cooperate fully with the investigation." Marcus paled, looking at O'Connell, who avoided his gaze, aware that the ship was sinking. "Detective Sergeant O'Connell," the DA continued, "you are temporarily suspended from your duties pending the conclusion of the internal investigation. Hand over your badge and weapon to the officer on duty." O'Connell's face twisted into a mixture of disbelief and contained rage. "This is a mistake, DA. My procedures were standard. Your procedures included accepting manipulated evidence and omitting crucial information from the report. Mr. Jenkins' medical evaluation directly contradicts your version of events." The DA didn't raise her voice, but every word landed like a hammer blow. "Lieutenant Rivers will be in charge of this precinct until further notice." We left the precinct just as the sky began to clear. The fresh morning air was almost cleansing after so many hours in that oppressive environment. Jordan walked silently beside me, exhausted, but relieved. "Where are we going, Grandpa?" "My house." "You can't go back to yours? Not for now." In the car, I noticed how Jordan slowly relaxed. The silence between us was comfortable, but we knew we had a lot to talk about. "This isn't over, is it?" he finally asked. "No, Jordan, this is only the beginning." At home, I made him coffee while he took a quick shower. I loaned him old clothes from when my son, Darnell, his father, lived with me. They were a little big, but they would do. Sitting in the kitchen with steaming mugs in front of us, we finally had that pending conversation. "How long has this been going on, JJ?" I asked. My grandson stared into his coffee. "Since shortly after he married Mom. At first, it was just yelling, little put-downs. He'd call me lazy, say I wasn't helping around the house, that I spent too much." "Your mother knew?" "He always did it when she wasn't around. And when I told her, Marcus denied everything. He said I was exaggerating or making things up to separate them." Jordan swallowed hard. Over time, Mom stopped believing me. "And when did it go from words to hitting?" "About 6 months ago. He came home drunk, furious because he'd lost money on an investment. He said I was bad luck, that everything went wrong since I was in his life." His voice cracked. He slapped me so hard, I fell to the floor. Then he cried, apologized, gave me money not to say anything. I felt the anger rise, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Why didn't you call me then?" "I thought I could handle it. And I was afraid that if I reported it, Mom would suffer." She seemed happy for the first time since Dad died. The phone interrupted our talk. It was Gabrielle, Jordan's mother. "Dad," she sounded frantic. "Marcus just called me, hysterical. He says Jordan attacked him and that you interfered to get him out of the precinct. What is going on? I explained the situation as calmly as possible, but Gabrielle was skeptical. I know Marcus, Dad. He's not the monster you're describing. Haven't you seen your son? He has a black eye and a cut eyebrow. Are you going to tell me he did that to himself too? The silence on the other end of the line said it all. A part of her suspected, but she had chosen not to look. I'm coming over, she finally said. I need to talk to Jordan. Hanging up, I met my grandson's uneasy gaze. Mom's coming? Yes, but don't worry. I'm not letting her take you back to that house. While we waited, Jordan fell asleep on the sofa. I looked at him, remembering when he was just a little boy running through that same living room, chasing his father. Darnell died when Jordan was 8, in a sudden, senseless highway accident, as these tragedies often are. Gabrielle collapsed, and Jordan grew up practically without a father figure. Marcus appeared at the perfect moment, offering stability, financial and emotional, or so it seemed. The doorbell rang shortly after noon. Gabrielle was pale, with dark circles under her eyes. To my surprise, Marcus was by her side. What is he doing here? I asked, not hiding my hostility. He's my husband, Dad, and we have to resolve this as a family. A family doesn't hid its members, Gabrielle. Marcus took a step forward, wearing his best concerned man face. Mr. Hawthorne, I understand your concern. It was a misunderstanding last night. Things got out of hand, but I assure you, I would never intentionally hurt Jordan. Save the speech, Vance. The DA has evidence of your prior assaults. Marcus paled for an instant, but quickly regained his composure. That nosy old woman twisted things. Any physical contact with Jordan has been purely disciplinary. Disciplinary? April's voice surprised us all. She stood right on the threshold of the door, in uniform, with a serious expression. I hadn't heard her arrive. Lieutenant Rivers, Marcus stammered. We weren't expecting you here. Evidently, she countered, stepping forward. Mr. Vance, I have a warrant to seize electronic devices from your house, including the video surveillance system. We need to recover the original recordings. This is an invasion of my privacy, Marcus protested. By what authority? By the authority of this warrant signed by Judge Evelyn Hayes. April showed him the document. Furthermore, the DA has requested that you present yourself this afternoon to provide a formal statement. Gabrielle looked at me, confused and frightened. Dad, what's going on? The noise woke Jordan, who appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Seeing his mother, he ran to hug her. When he saw Marcus, he froze. What are you doing here, Jordan? We need to talk, Gabrielle said, trying to sound conciliatory. Marcus says it was all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Jordan pulled away. He hit me, Mom, like he's done many times when you're not around. And then he threatens me so I don't say anything. Marcus advanced toward him with a menacing gesture. Stop lying, you ungrateful brat, after everything I have done for you. And your mother? Mr. Vance, April interrupted, stepping between them. I suggest you keep your distance from Mr. Jenkins. Any attempt at intimidation will be added to the existing charges. Marcus shot her a look full of contained hatred, but backed away. This isn't over. I have powerful friends. Contacts. Your contacts are also being investigated, April countered, including your relationship with Detective Sergeant O'Connell and certain officials at City Hall. Marcus looked at Gabrielle. Are you going to allow this? Are you going to let them destroy our family because of your son's lies? Gabrielle seemed torn between two loyalties. She looked at Jordan, then at Marcus, and finally at me. I need to see those recordings, she murmured, her voice breaking. I need to know the truth. The truth is right in front of you, I said, pointing to Jordan's injuries. You just have to open your eyes. Marcus realized he was losing ground. His face changed, dropping the mask of the reasonable man. You asked for this, you meddling old fool. If you think this is going to end well, for you, or the brat, you're dead wrong. He turned and headed toward his car, ignoring April's calls for him to come in and give a statement. Let him go, Lieutenant, I said. He won't get far. Gabrielle came into the house, hugging Jordan tightly. April stayed with me for a moment at the door. He should have presented himself voluntarily, she commented. Now I'll have to arrest him. You will. He's too arrogant to believe he's in real trouble. He's underestimating the severity of this. We found more videos on Mrs. Johnson's cell phone, episodes of abuse from months ago. The DA has all of it, and she's furious. Few things anger Melinda more than child abuse and police corruption. April looked at me seriously. Watch your grandson, Detective. Men like him become more dangerous when they feel they're losing control. After April left, I went inside. Gabrielle was sitting on the sofa, her head in her hands. Jordan was in the kitchen, preparing her some tea. How could I not see it? She whispered when I sat beside her. How could I have been so blind? Love blinds us sometimes, I replied gently. And Marcus is a good manipulator. You're not the first, and you won't be the last to fall for someone like that. My own child, she sobbed. My boy, and I didn't protect him. Can you protect him now? I asked. By leaving Marcus, by testifying against him. Gabrielle looked at me, and I saw a new resolve growing in her eyes. I will. He will never lay a hand on him again. The next few hours passed in a strange calm. Jordan and Gabrielle talked for a long time in the guest room. I tried to keep busy by cooking, although no one really had an appetite. The phone rang several times. The DA, Lieutenant Rivers, even a couple of reporters who had gotten wind of the case. I told them all the same thing. We would talk after we rested. By nightfall, when Jordan finally fell asleep, Gabrielle sat with me on the porch. I never imagined it would end this way, she said, looking at the stars. When I met Marcus, he seemed so perfect, attentive, caring, stable. Manipulators always seem perfect at first. There were signs, she admitted. Controlling comments, jealousy, small lies, but I convinced myself they weren't important. What will you do now? Divorce him, obviously. Testify against him. Try to repair my relationship with Jordan. She sighed deeply. It's going to be a long process. I'll be here to support both of you, I assured her. Just then my cell phone vibrated. It was a message from April. Marcus did not present himself to give a statement. Arrest warrant issued. A chill ran down my spine. A man like Marcus, cornered, is dangerous. Is something wrong? Gabrielle asked, noticing my expression. Nothing important? I lied, not wanting to worry her further. You should rest. That night, I slept fitfully, waking up at every noise. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. It was April again. Detective, we found Marcus's car abandoned near the airport, she informed me. But there's no record of him taking a flight. We think he might be using fake documents, or someone is helping him hide. Did you check his bank accounts? They've been frozen since last night, and we have surveillance on all his known properties. Watch O'Connell, too. If anyone knows where Marcus is hiding, it's him. O'Connell is under constant surveillance. I hung up and stood looking out the window. The light of dawn began to illuminate the empty street. Everything seemed calm, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this calm was just the prelude to something worse. 2 days passed without news of Marcus. Jordan began to relax, even smiling at times. Gabrielle filed for divorce and a formal complaint for domestic violence. Damore informed me that the investigation had widened. Apparently, Marcus was involved in shady business with several city officials, including bribes and influence peddling. On the morning of the third day, Gabrielle decided to go back to her house briefly to pick up a few things. I insisted on accompanying her, but she refused. The police had the house watched all night, she said. Marcus isn't there. Besides, I'll go with an officer. I'll be fine. Something inside me told me it was a bad idea, but I didn't want to seem overprotective. Call me when you get there, and before you come back, I asked. I promise. Jordan and I stayed home, playing chess to distract ourselves. He's good at the game, calculating and patient. He reminded me of his father, Darnell. The phone rang, and I answered, expecting to hear Gabrielle's voice. Instead, it was Marcus. Listen closely, old man. His voice sounded agitated, frantic. I have your daughter-in-law with me. If you want to see her again, bring Jordan to the abandoned warehouse at 54 Industrial Avenue. 1 hour, just the two of you. If I see a single police officer, Gabrielle will pay the consequences. Marcus, don't be an idiot. 1 hour, he yelled and hung up. I looked at Jordan, who had understood the gravity of the situation just by seeing my face. I couldn't tell him the whole truth, but I couldn't lie to him either. What's wrong, Grandpa? It's your mom. Your mother is fine. I tried to sound convincing. But I need you to stay here while I sort out something important. It's Marcus, isn't it? His intuition surprised me. What did he do? Just then, the phone rang again. It was April. Detective, we have a problem. Gabrielle never arrived at her house. The officer who was supposed to accompany her was found unconscious in the patrol car. Marcus has her, I said without preamble. He just called me. He wants me to bring Jordan to a warehouse on Industrial Avenue in an hour, or he'll hurt her. Don't go alone, Detective. It's a trap. I know, but I can't risk my daughter-in-law's life. Get me the exact address. I'm sending plainclothes units. I gave her the details and hung up. Jordan was staring at me. I'm coming with you, he said firmly. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. She's my mom, Grandpa, and this is my fault. It's not your fault, Jordan. None of this is. If you don't take me, I'll go on my own. His determination was absolute. I looked at him, weighing the situation. If I left him, he would surely try to follow me, putting himself in even more danger. If I took him, at least I could try to protect him. All right, I finally conceded. But you will do exactly what I say. No questions. Understood? He nodded gravely. Understood. As we prepared to leave, I couldn't help but to think that we were heading into the darkest part of this story. But I also knew that sometimes you have to go through the darkness for the light to finally arrive. The drive to the warehouse felt endless. I drove in silence with Jordan beside me. My hands were slightly trembling, but his gaze held a determination that reminded me of Darnell. Before leaving the house, I had tucked my old service pistol into the back of my pants. I had hoped I would never have to use it again, but life has cruel ways of changing our plans. Do you have a plan? Jordan asked, breaking the silence. Lieutenant Rivers is sending undercover units. We won't be alone. What if they're late? What if Marcus sees the police and hurts Mom? I didn't have a reassuring answer, so I told him the truth. We will do everything we can to prevent that from happening. My cell vibrated with a message from April. Teams in position in 15 minutes. Wait before entering. But we didn't have 15 minutes. Arriving at Industrial Avenue, I saw the abandoned warehouse at the end of the street. A red brick building, broken windows, and graffiti everywhere. A perfect spot for an ambush. I parked a block away, observing the surroundings. No other vehicles were visible, but I spotted a black sedan with tinted windows near the side entrance. It must have been Marcus's car. Stay here, I told Jordan. I'm going to check it out first. Grandpa, he said. He said both of us had to go. I know, but I'm not putting you in the line of fire. I'm already in danger, he replied, with a maturity that disarmed me. And Mom is too. You can't protect both of us if you leave me here. He was right, and admitting it hurt. Before I could answer, the phone rang again. It was Marcus. I see you've arrived. Get inside right now, or your daughter-in-law pays. We're coming, Marcus. Don't do anything crazy. You have 2 minutes, and he hung up. I looked at Jordan, feeling the weight of responsibility crushing me. You stay behind me at all times. Understood? Yes. He nodded seriously. We walked toward the warehouse, each step heavier than the last. The main door was ajar, and it creaked ominously when I pushed it open. Inside, it was dark, barely illuminated by the light filtering through the grime-covered windows and some skylights. Marcus, I called out, trying to keep my voice firm. Back here, Elias. Both of you. Come on. We advanced between buses and rusty machinery. The smell of dampness and rust filled the air. We reached a wider space, and I saw them. Marcus was standing, gripping Gabrielle's arm. Her face was tear-streaked, but she looked unharmed. Mom! Jordan yelled, trying to run toward her. I stopped him with my arm. Easy, I whispered. Then to Marcus, we're here. Let go of my daughter-in-law. Marcus let out a bitter laugh. You think it's that easy, old man? You ruined my life, my reputation, my business. Everything is in jeopardy because of you. You did that to yourself, I replied. No one forced you to hit a kid. That brat needed discipline. He tightened his grip on Gabrielle's arm, making her wince. And you meddling old fool, you had no right to get involved in my family. Let me go, Marcus, she pleaded. You're only making things worse. Shut up. He shook her. You betrayed me too, after everything I did for you and your ungrateful son. I assessed the situation. Marcus looked increasingly out of control. His eyes held the feverish gleam of a cornered animal. I didn't see a weapon, but that didn't mean he didn't have one. What do you want, Marcus? I asked, trying to buy time. April's units needed a few more minutes. I want my life back, he replied, his voice breaking. I want the charges dropped. I want the DA to stop investigating my business. And I want that brat, he pointed at Jordan, to retract all his lies. They're not lies, Jordan said, surprisingly composed. And you're right about one thing. You ruined your own life. Every time you hit me, every time you threatened me, every time you manipulated Mom, you dug your own grave. Marcus let go of Gabrielle and lunged toward Jordan. That was the moment I was waiting for. I quickly stepped in front of him. Don't you dare touch him. What, old man? What are you going to do? He shoved me, underestimating my strength. I didn't move an inch. Stay away from my family, I warned, feeling the pistol against my lower back. Marcus smiled, a smile without a trace of humanity. Your family? How sweet. The old cop protecting his own? He made a motion to step aside, but suddenly he spun and threw a punch that I barely managed to dodge. The abrupt movement made me step back, giving him time to pull something from his waistband. A revolver. He pointed it directly at my chest. Now we're going to talk seriously, he said with a chilling calm. You and I know how this works, Elias. Men like us understand the language of power. Put the gun down, Marcus. The police are coming. Of course they are. I was waiting for them. He smiled again. But by the time they get here, we'll have settled our accounts. Gabrielle took advantage of the distraction to run toward Jordan and hug him. Marcus looked at them with contempt. Look at that happy family. How moving. Marcus, I tried to reason. You can still get out of this. Lower the gun. Turn yourself in. Cooperate with the DA. Maybe you can get a deal. A deal? He laughed. No, Elias. Men like me don't make deals. We either win or... He left the sentence hanging, but his gaze said everything. I heard a faint noise behind me. Someone had entered. I kept my face neutral, so as not to alert Marcus. Let Gabrielle and Jordan go, I proposed. This is between you and me. No, he denied, shaking the gun. They're part of it, too. They're my insurance. The noise became more evident. Marcus tensed, looking into the shadows. Who's there? Come out or I shoot. I took advantage of his distraction to position myself even more in front of Jordan and Gabrielle. If he shot, he'd have to shoot through me. Police? April's voice echoed through the warehouse. Drop the weapon, Mr. Vance. Marcus seemed surprised, but not scared. Lieutenant Rivers, how predictable. Did you come alone, or did you bring reinforcements? You're surrounded, Vance. You have no way out. There's always a way out, Lieutenant. He adjusted his posture, firming his grip on the revolver. It just takes the right incentive. I searched with my eyes through the shadows until I located April, half hidden behind a column, aiming at Marcus. Let them go, Marcus, she ordered. More units are arriving. In minutes, this place will be full of officers. Then we don't have much time, he countered. Suddenly, he pointed the gun at Jordan. Either you let me walk out of here, or the kid pays for everything. It all happened in an instant. Without thinking, I lunged at Marcus, just as he pulled the trigger. The shot thundered in the warehouse. I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder, but I managed to knock him to the ground. The weapon skittered away, sliding across the cement floor. April emerged from the shadows, running toward us. Gabrielle screamed, hugging Jordan, who was unharmed. Marcus and I wrestled on the floor. Despite my age, the adrenaline gave me the strength to keep him pinned down until April arrived and cuffed him. Are you all right, Detective? She asked, seeing the blood on my shirt. It's just a scratch, I lied as the pain intensified. Take care of him. More officers entered the warehouse, securing the location. One approached with a first aid kit as Marcus was led away by force, shouting threats and insults. This isn't over, he bellowed. I have powerful friends. I'll get revenge on all of you. Gabrielle and Jordan ran to me, worried about the wound. Grandpa, you're bleeding a lot, Jordan said, his eyes filled with tears. I've had worse, I tried to reassure him, though the pain was intense. An ambulance is coming, April informed me. Hold on, Detective. The paramedic pressed down on the wound while I looked at my family. Despite the terror they'd lived through, I saw relief on their faces. Marcus could no longer hurt them. In the ambulance, with Gabrielle and Jordan by my side, I felt a strange peace. The wound hurt, but it was a reminder that we were still alive, that we had survived that nightmare. Thank you, Dad, Gabrielle whispered, squeezing my hand, for saving us. I always will, I replied, feeling the effect of the sedative. I'll always be there for you. The days in the hospital passed slowly. The bullet had grazed the bone in my shoulder but caused no major damage. The doctors assured me I would regain full mobility after a few weeks of physical therapy. April visited me frequently, updating me on the case. Marcus was facing multiple charges: aggravated assault, child abuse, kidnapping, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice. The list was long. O'Connell had also been formally charged with covering up and tampering with evidence. D.A. Moore expanded the investigation and brought to light a network of corruption involving several city officials, including bribery and influence peddling. One afternoon, while Jordan was helping me with the hospital food tray, I noticed he was pensive. "What are you thinking about, son?" I asked. About everything that happened, he replied. About how one person can cause so much damage. Some men confuse power with the right to abuse others, I told him. It's a tough lesson, but an important one. I think I want to study law, he said suddenly. I want to help people like us, people who face injustice. I smiled, feeling immense pride. You'll be an excellent lawyer, Jordan. It's thanks to you, Grandpa. His eyes welled up. If I hadn't had the courage to call you that night. But you did, I interrupted. And that says a lot about the man you're becoming. The door opened and Damore entered. It was the first time I'd seen her since that night at the precinct. She looked tired, but satisfied. Detective Hawthorne, I'm glad to see you recovering. D.A. Moore, what a surprise. I came to inform you personally. The judge has denied bail to Marcus Vance. He will remain in prison until the trial, and O'Connell is also in custody. He's cooperating and providing information about the entire corruption network. The DA looked at Jordan. Your testimony will be crucial, young man. Do you think you can do it? Jordan nodded firmly. I'm ready. Good, because what you've experienced, unfortunately, is not an isolated case. The DA sat on the edge of the bed. We're implementing a new protocol in the DA's office specifically to prevent the manipulation of digital evidence in domestic violence cases. A new protocol? I asked, intrigued. Yes, she smiled slightly. We'll call it the Hawthorne Protocol, in honor of you and your grandson. The news left me speechless. Jordan looked at me, his eyes shining. Did you hear that, Grandpa? Your name is going to be part of the justice system. Our name, I corrected him. This victory belongs to both of us. The DA stood up. We'll need you next week in court. Lieutenant Rivers will pick you up. We'll be there, Jordan promised. When the DA left, Gabrielle entered with coffee and pastries from the cafeteria. She had recovered some color in her face, though she still looked tired. Good news? She asked, seeing us. The best, Jordan replied and told her about the Hawthorne Protocol. Gabrielle looked at me with a mixture of gratitude and remorse. Dad, I can never thank you enough. If you hadn't been there... But I was, I replied simply. And I always will be. That night, after Jordan and Gabrielle left, I stayed alone in the hospital room, reflecting. I thought about the terror of the midnight call, the helplessness against O'Connell, the pain of the gunshot, but also the courage of my grandson, the tenacity of April, and the integrity of D.A. Moore. The system isn't perfect. It's full of O'Connells and Vances, people who abuse their power. But there are also those who fight for justice and refuse to look the other way. My cell phone vibrated on the bedside table. It was a message from April. Case officially closed. The trial will be swift with all the evidence we have. Rest up, detective. You've earned it. I smiled in the darkness of the room. Maybe my career as a police officer ended years ago, but I never stopped fighting for what was right. And now that fight had a new meaning through Jordan. I closed my eyes, feeling a genuine peace for the first time in days. The pain in my shoulder was a small price for my family's safety, and knowing that our experience would help protect others filled me with quiet pride. The next day, I was discharged. Then began the real recovery, not just from my physical wound, but from the invisible scars Marcus had left on Jordan and Gabrielle. It would be a long road, but we would walk it together as a family. And I thought about all those people suffering in silence, trapped in cycles of abuse and fear. Maybe when our story became known, it would give someone the courage to make that desperate call in the middle of the night for help, to break the silence. Because sometimes everything starts with the courage to dial a number and say, I'm scared. Please, help me. The courthouse halls were crowded, but I walked with determination, leaning on the cane the doctors insisted I use for at least another month. The shoulder wound had healed well, though it still ached when the weather changed. Jordan walked beside me, tall and composed. In these weeks, he had matured so much that sometimes I barely recognized the frightened teenager who called me that night. That day, the sentence would be read. After a 3-week trial, the judge would announce the fate of Marcus Vance and Vince O'Connell. The prosecution's evidence had been overwhelming. The recovered videos, Mrs. Johnson's recordings, Jordan's brave testimony, and the medical expert reports demonstrating the pattern of abuse. "Nervous?" I asked my grandson as we waited outside the courtroom. "A little," he admitted. "Do you really think he's going to pay for what he did? D.A. Moore did an impeccable job, and your testimony was perfect. Firm, clear, without contradictions." Gabrielle joined us, dressed in a formal suit. She too had changed in those weeks, slowly regaining the strength she had lost. The divorce was progressing, and she had started therapy to work through the guilt that still haunted her. "The room is full," she informed us. "There are several reporters." It was true. What started as a domestic violence case ended up exposing a wider plot of municipal corruption. Several officials had already been indicted. The courtroom doors opened, and we entered. And we sat in the first row, behind the prosecution table. April was already there, reviewing documents. She greeted us with a nod. On the other side, the lawyers for Marcus and O'Connell muttered among themselves. Their clients had not yet been brought inside. "All rise," the bailiff announced as the judge entered. A man in his 60s, known for his fairness. "You may be seated. Bring in the defendants." Marcus and O'Connell entered, escorted, wearing orange prison jumpsuits. Marcus looked thinner and had lost his usual arrogance. His grim expression hardened his features. He glanced at us fleetingly, and I thought I saw a flash of hatred before he looked away. The judge adjusted his glasses and reviewed the documents. After considering all the evidence presented and the jury's deliberations, this court is ready to deliver its sentence. The silence was absolute. I felt Jordan's hand tense in mine. In the cause of the state versus Marcus Vance, the jury has found him guilty of all charges: aggravated domestic violence, child abuse, kidnapping, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice. The judge looked directly at Marcus. "This court sentences you to 22 years in state prison, with no possibility of parole for at least 15 years. A murmur ran through the room. Marcus remained impassive, as if he had expected it. "Regarding the defendant, Vince O'Connell," the judge continued, "having been found guilty of abuse of authority, cover-up, tampering with evidence, and obstruction of justice, he is sentenced to 12 years in prison, with the possibility of review after 8 years, considering his cooperation with the broader DA investigation." O'Connell bowed his head, visibly devastated. "Furthermore," the judge added, "this court orders both defendants to pay financial restitution to the victims, the amount of which will be determined in a subsequent civil hearing." The gavel struck, sealing their fates. Jordan exhaled slowly. Gabrielle sobbed quietly beside me. "The session is adjourned," the judge declared. As the guards led Marcus and O'Connell away, D.A. Moore approached. "Justice served," she said, with professional satisfaction. The judge was as firm as we expected. "Thank you for everything, D.A., I told her sincerely. "Don't thank me. Thank your grandson." She looked at Jordan with admiration. His testimony was crucial, especially when describing the systematic pattern of abuse. Many teenagers wouldn't have had that clarity, or that courage. Jordan smiled shyly. "I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the hardest thing." The DA looked at her watch. "I have to go. We have a press conference in 20 minutes about the case and the new protocol. Would you like to join me?" I looked at Jordan and Gabrielle. "I think we need a private moment," Gabrielle replied. "It's been an intense morning." "Of course. Lieutenant Rivers has your details for the official presentation ceremony of the Hawthorne Protocol next week. When the DA left, we stayed a few more minutes in the nearly empty courtroom. How do you feel? I asked Jordan. Relieved, I guess, but also strange. A part of me hoped he would apologize, show some remorse. Men like Marcus rarely acknowledge their mistakes, I told him. They always blame others. Do you think he'll change in prison? I don't know, son. But the important thing is that he can't hurt you anymore. We left the courthouse through a side door to avoid the reporters. The day was bright and warm. Let's go eat something, Gabrielle proposed. We have to celebrate. At the restaurant, I looked at my family. There was a lightness about them that I hadn't seen in a long time. The shadows hadn't vanished, but they were less dense. Have you decided which university you're going to apply to? I asked Jordan. I'm looking at State University, he answered. They have an excellent law program, and D.A. Moore said she could recommend me for a special mentorship program. That's a great opportunity, Gabrielle said proudly. And I just got a new job. I start next month as a supervisor at the firm. Everything is falling into place. I raised my glass to new beginnings. And for a moment, the past seemed like a distant country we had managed to escape. The following weeks found their own rhythm. My shoulder healed enough for me to put the cane away. Jordan enthusiastically prepared his university applications. Gabrielle spent more time at my house than in her new apartment. One afternoon, I got a call from April. Detective, we have a date for the official presentation of the Hawthorne Protocol, she told me. This Friday at 11 a.m. in the main auditorium. The DA would like you and Jordan to say a few words about your experience. When I told Jordan, I saw the excitement in his eyes. It's a chance to help other people who are going through the same thing, he said. On the day of the presentation, the auditorium was full. Police officers, prosecutors, judges. D.A. Moore explained the new protocol, a set of procedures to ensure the integrity of digital evidence in domestic violence and child abuse cases. It included metadata verification, a reinforced chain of custody, and independent forensic analysis. This protocol was born from a case that revealed serious flaws in our system, she explained. When it was my turn, I stood up. For 35 years, I was a police detective, I began. I thought I knew the system, its strengths and its weaknesses. But it was only when my own grandson was trapped in that system that I truly understood how vulnerable victims of abuse are within it. I briefly told our story, highlighting the crucial support of people like April and D.A. Moore. When Jordan took the microphone, his voice was clear and firm. He spoke directly to the young people present, describing the subtle signs of abuse he ignored, the psychological manipulation, the fear. If you are going through something similar, know that you are not alone, he said. There are people who will believe you. You just have to take the first step. Make that call, like I did. His words were met with thunderous applause. Months passed. Jordan was accepted into State University. Gabrielle finalized the divorce. I returned to my old hobbies. One afternoon, almost a year after that night, I received an official envelope. Marcus's appeal had been rejected. I didn't mention it to Jordan or Gabrielle. I saw no point in disturbing the peace they had worked so hard to achieve. The next morning, Jordan came over for breakfast. He was on vacation and now volunteered as a mentor to other young survivors. I have something to show you, he said, pulling a sheet from his backpack. It was an acceptance letter for a summer law program. That's amazing, Jordan. D.A. Moore recommended me, he explained. She says I have the potential to work in the domestic violence unit someday. The path he had chosen wouldn't be easy, but I saw a new strength in him, a resilience born from his own pain. You know what's weird, Grandpa? He added. Sometimes I think about Marcus, and I no longer feel fear or hatred, just pity. That's part of healing too, I replied. And do you still hate him? I thought about it for a moment. Let's just say I don't spend energy on him. I prefer to dedicate it to you, to our family, to the good things that came out of all this. And it was true. The Hawthorne Protocol was being adopted in other states. Jordan had found his calling. Gabrielle had reclaimed her life. That weekend, we had a small celebration at my house. Gabrielle brought food. Jordan brought friends from the support group, and Mrs. Johnson showed up with a box of donuts. As I watched this new extended family, April approached. "Did you know 3 more states are adopting the protocol?" she said. "And they're considering it nationally. Oh, and I got promoted to captain." "Congratulations, Captain." "Well deserved." "Thank you, Detective. I owe part of this to you and Jordan." As the gathering continued, I stepped out onto the porch for a moment. The sky was beginning to turn orange. I thought about the contrasts. While we celebrated, Marcus served his sentence. While Jordan built a future, O'Connell's career crumbled. I felt no satisfaction, only the certainty that justice, however imperfect and slow, had arrived. Jordan came out looking for me. "Everything okay, Grandpa? You're missing the dessert." "Just thinking," I said, putting an arm around his shoulders, "about how proud I am of you, of the man you've become." "Thanks to you," he replied, leaning his head on my shoulder. "I guess if I hadn't made that call, but you did, and that changed everything." We went back inside together. Gabrielle greeted us with a smile, a lightness in her face that reminded me of the young woman I knew before life hit her so hard. As we ate dessert, I thought about all those phones that ring in the middle of the night, about the shaky voices asking for help. The story that began with a desperate call didn't end in a fairy tale. Real life rarely offers those. But it gave us something just as valuable: the opportunity to turn pain into purpose, fear into determination, and a traumatic experience into a legacy that will protect many others. And perhaps, in the end, that is the most important victory of all. If my story has moved you and you want to know what happened next, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. Remember, your support with a like and a comment can save other lives, just like it saved my grandson's.